So a nav mesh is used for the navigation solution in Unity. The navigation solution is meant to create pathfinding solutions for AI characters. Now, in this case, we're going to be using the nav mesh for our player and the Swords and Shovels content, simply because we want to create a click-to-move system. And this particular system will allow us to click anywhere on our terrain, and we would allow a nav mesh agent, which is applied to the player, to guide the player to the current location that has been clicked. So let's talk about how we can create a nav mesh. To do this, we'll go up to Window, Navigation. Now it's going to dock itself here in the inspector area, and let's go ahead and just bake out a nav mesh just to get started. To do this, we'll go to Bake, and we're not going to worry about any of these parameters at this time. We're just going to hit Bake. Now doing so, you'll see that this mesh has been created across most of the flatter surfaces in the scene. Now you'll notice that some of these meshes have been created on top of the rocks, which really wouldn't benefit us. We don't want our character to be moving about up there. We only want them on the ground. Now baking a nav mesh is really easy, and the system works very, very well, and it's simple to set up. But there are a few parameters that we'll need to talk about to create this particular set. Now there is another workflow of creating these nav meshes, and it is using what's called nav mesh components. But let's just talk about this for now, and then we can talk about the component workflow in the Unity Navigation Fundamentals course. So looking at these parameters, we are looking at the baked agent size, and so we're just identifying with the nav mesh that this is about the size of the agent that is going to be used. Now these parameters can be modified right here, and you'll see that whenever you change these parameters, it will automatically adjust the overall schematic view of how this is supposed to work. So if I were to type in 0.2, you'll notice that it changes that image, and we get an idea of how the character is going to move about using the nav mesh. Now in our case, this default value is pretty good. I think our character is a little bit shorter than 2 meters tall, and so we might actually put in something like 1.6 to identify with that. Now we have the max slope, and basically what that means is that whenever the character goes up, we want them to be able to go up any sort of slope that is at 45 degrees. Anything that's over that will not create a nav mesh, as you can see right here. We also have this step height, and the step height is basically just saying if we have meshes, or excuse me, a nav mesh, we have like stairs or something like that, we want to be able to create nav meshes on those surfaces that are at around 0.4. And this will actually allow the character to move up 0.4 to get up any one of these slopes here. And so it allows them to move up stairs, if you want to think of it that way. Below this, we have generated off-mesh links. Off-mesh links allow us to create drop heights and jump distances. And so basically, if we have an area that is elevated above another, we want to be able to automatically create these off-mesh links anywhere that these values are true. In this case, everything is set to 0, so it's not actually going to create any off-mesh links. Now, if we wanted to create some of these, we could say, all right, let's make the drop height at, let's say, 6 units, and the jump distance also 6 units. We could hit Bake, and you'll notice that we start seeing these little circles all over the map, and it's basically saying this is a place where the character could jump off of this ledge and land here. And lots of things like over here as well, you can see that it comes to this point, it would drop down here, and it basically automatically creates that just to make it easy for you to create a character that can jump and move across different surfaces. Now for us, we're not going to allow that, so we're just going to type in 0, 0 and then rebake. Now at this point, we could leave this nav mesh, but I'm really just not happy with the overall mesh itself, you'll notice that the ferns themselves are kind of cutting off from the area, that we're not allowed to actually go through them and go into this area. And so what I would like to do is refine this a little bit to give the player a little bit more room to walk and to move. So let's go ahead and talk about how we can modify our nav mesh next.